In the NBA, super teams are built to win championships, but for every successful super team, there are those that collapse under the weight of expectations. This is B-Ball Threads, and today we're breaking down the biggest failed super teams ever, what went wrong, and what could have been. Perhaps the most recent failed super team are the recent Phoenix Suns with their big three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. The Suns went from bottom of the league to championship contenders in 2020 with the addition of Chris Paul, but after a few failed playoff runs, the Suns traded for Kevin Durant and later that summer traded Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. In return for two superstars, the Suns essentially destroyed their depth and got rid of a huge amount of future first-round picks. Problems with this team were obvious before the big three ever played a game together. They simply had no money to build out the rest of their roster. With their three stars all signed to top 10 most expensive contracts in the league, the Suns had to fill out the rest of their team with minimum contract players who would end up contributing little to the team. The 23-24 season was their first season together, and you could tell the trio was not going to work. With the Suns trading away Chris Paul for Bradley Beal, the Suns lost their only solid point guard on the team. There's only one ball, and having three ball-dominant stars and no facilitator just didn't work well. Not only was the fit just off, but the trio was plagued by injuries all season as well. They only ended up playing 40 games together that season. They ended up as the 6th seed and went on to get swept by Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It only got worse from there, as they didn't even make the play-in tournament this season, and now the Suns are without both Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal this next season.
Respectfully, I don't know how teams are going to guard us.
In 2021, the Brooklyn Nets assembled possibly the most talented big three in NBA history when they traded for James Harden, pairing him with their superstar duo of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. That's not all. Along with their superstar big three, the Nets had solid contributors at all positions like Nick Claxton, Karis LeVert, Bruce Brown, and a future all-star in Jarrett Allen. Unfortunately for the Nets, a multitude of injuries and off-court issues made it so the big three only played 16 games together in 2 seasons, going 13-3 in those games. The closest they came was in the 2021 NBA playoffs, where they lost a heartbreaking Game 7 against the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks. Had Kyrie Irving not got injured that series and Durant had a smaller shoe size, the Nets would have most likely won a ring that year. Unfortunately, that isn't the case, and with Durant and Harden dealing with injuries and Kyrie's off-court issues, what should have been the greatest offensive big three in NBA history ended with 2 playoff exits, and all 3 players eventually dealt to other teams. After the Lakers fell short in the 2021 playoffs to the Suns, they made a blockbuster trade to acquire Russell Westbrook from the Wizards. Although the Lakers didn't give up much, everyone knows the big three of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook was a disaster. Because of the 3 big contracts, the rest of the Lakers roster consisted of washed-up role players who were on the brink of retirement, like Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, and DeAndre Jordan. Trading for Westbrook meant the Lakers had no perimeter shooting. Pair that up with a roster of washed-up vets and you have a disaster waiting to happen. The 21-22 season was the only full season Westbrook would play for the Lakers. Although his stats looked decent, his playing style just didn't fit with LeBron's. Both players were used to facilitating the offense, with LeBron getting priority. Westbrook would be turned into a catch-and-shoot player on many possessions, which is just something he's not good at. This, paired with mediocre vets and 80 facing injuries all season, meant the Lakers would miss the playoffs completely. The 22-23 season saw much of the same issues, and with changes obviously needing to be made, the Lakers would trade Westbrook for D'Angelo Russell midway through the season, and the rest was history. With the shocking departure of Kevin Durant in the summer of 2016, the Oklahoma City Thunder frantically tried to pair a prime Russell Westbrook with more elite talent to make the team contenders once again. They did this by trading for 2 elite scoring all-stars, those being Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. The trio only lasted a season as the 3 superstars' playing styles just didn't fit well together. As a result, the team only won 48 games and were embarrassed by a rookie Donovan Mitchell and a less talented Utah Jazz team in the first round of the playoffs. The Thunder would trade Carmelo that offseason after just 1 year and go into the 18-19 season with a roster around Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Even with PG having an MVP caliber season, the Thunder only won 49 games and were sent home by Damian Lillard in the first round. After yet another first round exit, Paul George announced that he planned to sign a 4-year contract with OKC, to only turn around and demand a trade to the Clippers shortly after. Russell Westbrook was shortly traded after, and the Thunder officially entered rebuild mode with more first round picks than they could ever dream of, and a little upcoming player named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The rest is history. In the summer of 2013, the Nets would make one of the most infamous trades in NBA history, sending multiple valuable first-round picks for an aging Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry. Obviously, today, this trade will go down as one of the worst in NBA history, but back then, people didn't know that those first-round picks would turn into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The Nets honestly looked scary, adding Pierce and Garnett to a team that already featured all-stars Deron Williams, Joe Johnson, and Brook Lopez. While the team looked stacked on paper, their new players were ancient at that point in their career, and it showed in the stats. Pierce saw his points per game drop from 18 to 13, and Garnett, who was an all-star the previous season, absolutely dropped off, only averaging 6 points. The fall-off in production, along with major injuries to Deron Williams and Brook Lopez, made it so the Nets only won 44 games as the 6th seed. After a gutsy Game 7 victory over the Raptors in the first round, the Nets saw their championship hopes die at the hands of LeBron James and the Miami Heat. LeBron would average 30 points per game to help the Heat close out the Nets in 5 games. The Nets were obviously outmatched as nobody outside of Joe Johnson showed up that entire series. That summer, Pierce would go sign with the Wizards, and later in the 14-15 season, Garnett would be traded to the Timberwolves. On the other hand, the Celtics used the first-round picks from the Brooklyn Nets to draft superstars Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, the two cornerstones of their now championship contending teams. The 2003-2004 Lakers are one of the most stacked teams of all time on paper. Aging superstars Karl Malone and Gary Payton took major pay cuts to join a Kobe and Shaq-led Lakers team that just three-peated 2 seasons prior. The Lakers became instant favorites to win the 2004 championship and began the season well, starting 14-3. And although the Lakers won 56 games, which was good for the 2nd seed going into the playoffs, there were many problems that would come back to haunt the Lakers later. First were Kobe's assault allegations in the 2003 offseason that affected him all season long and brought unwanted attention to the team. Along with his off-court issues, tensions between Kobe and Shaq peaked around this time, and both were letting their egos get the best of them. Pair that with a Gary Payton who struggled with the triangle offense and a Karl Malone who missed significant time due to injuries, and this Lakers team was not as good as people once thought they were. This showed in the 2004 NBA Finals where they got upset by the Pistons in just 5 games. Kobe and Shaq had a tough time scoring with the Pistons' great defense, and the rest of the team didn't help. Shaq would be traded to the Heat that offseason as Gary Payton left and Karl Malone retired. It wouldn't be until 5 years later where the Lakers would be back on top of the basketball world again with Pau Gasol and Kobe Bryant. Similar to the 2004 Lakers, the 2013 Lakers were built the exact same way. Being a few years removed from a championship, the Lakers yet again looked to add superstar players to the team regardless of age or fit. In the summer of 2012, the Lakers traded for 2-time MVP Steve Nash and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year Dwight Howard. Adding 2 all-time players to a roster that already had Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and solid role players like Metta World Peace made the Lakers championship contenders immediately. Before the season began, the Lakers were a top 2 favorite to win the NBA championship, but once the season started, the Lakers were in danger of missing the playoffs altogether. Numerous injuries, fit issues, and a switch at head coach had the Lakers at a 15-21 record, their worst start to a season since 1993. Although they eventually got it together enough to make the 7th seed come playoff time, the damage had already been done. With Kobe infamously tearing his Achilles in the 80th game of the season, the Lakers hobbled into the playoffs and were swept by the Spurs in the first round. Dwight would be shipped to Houston in the offseason, Nash retired after one more season with the Lakers, and Kobe was never the same player after his Achilles tear. This season was the last time a Kobe-led team would make the playoffs, and the last time the Lakers would reach the postseason until their 2020 championship run. The 1996-1997 Houston Rockets are a forgotten failed super team of the past, but let's not ignore how talented this roster was and how much they fell short. Being a season removed from their championship year, the Rockets were in a rush to pair all-time great Hakeem Olajuwon with more talent to help him get back to the finals. In the middle of the 94-95 season, the Rockets traded for all-time shooting guard Clyde Drexler, and in the summer of 96, the Rockets made another blockbuster trade, acquiring Charles Barkley to form their Big Three. While all 3 of these players are top 75 players ever, Father Time got the best of them as all three were in their mid-30s by the time they teamed up in H-Town. The Rockets won 57 games in the 96-97 season, good enough for a third seed heading into the playoffs. They ended up losing in 6 games to the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals that year, and age caught on to them in the later years, which is shown by how none of them made All-Star games again in their careers. Although they never won a championship, nevertheless made a finals appearance with their big three, they didn't necessarily underachieve. They lost to a famous Jazz team that featured 2 all-time players, and even if they did manage to win the West, still had to face Michael Jordan and the Bulls in the finals. At the end of the day, talent alone doesn't guarantee success in the NBA. Super teams fail when chemistry, health, and sacrifice take a backseat to big names and bigger egos. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to Bebo Threads for more NBA content. Let us know in the comments which super team collapse surprised you the most, and we'll catch you later.